Let me be the first one to welcome you to our Leadership Institute for Tomorrow's Vision for Success webinars. This might be your first time attending, so welcome to you if you're a newcomer, and those of you who are returning, welcome back to our webinar series. These webinars, Vision for Success webinars, is sponsored by the California Community College Chancellor's Office, and it is designed to lift the vision of each of us in the community college system to not only to own our diverse leadership identities, gain some leadership skills and insights, and lean into our own cultural strength, and also hopefully to impact your personal and professional life and leadership journey. Now, our work with the Leadership Institute is to transform all of our students' lives for their success. And your work on the ground is the same, I'm sure. And we would like to foster your awareness and deepen your understanding of our system-wide goals and priorities. And of course, these webinars should strengthen your own leadership mindset, which we had a webinar on that, and shine some lights on your own pathway to success and to inspire you to your own aspirations. And we desperately need diverse, excellent, and justice-minded leaders for our system to move the needle. So collectively and in unity, we can achieve these goals. And then I would like to quickly run through the vision for success goals for the California Community College system. So first, and some of you may be very familiar with these because that may be your everyday life, and it should be our everyday life for all of us. And the first is to, over the 5 years period, we want to increase by at least 20% of the number of California community college students annually to acquire their associate degrees, credentials, or certificates, or specific skill sets that prepare them for the in-demand jobs of the future, and to increase 35% of our students transferring annually to the UC and CSU. And I know many of our students transfer to outside the UC and CSU as well. And to decrease the average number of units accumulated by our students earning the associate degrees. And number 4 on the next slide is increase the percent of CTE students reporting being employed in the field of their study, and also reduce equity gaps across all measures among of our underrepresented student groups. And last one is to reduce regional achievement gaps across all measures through faster improvement among colleges located in the region with the lowest educational attainment. So those are not lofty goals, very reasonable goals. We should be able to attain them, but it will take all of us to achieve those goals, I know. So collectively and individually, we need to grow the leaders in every one of you to help our students succeed and achieve those goals. I'm very happy to host today's seminar about mentor-mentee relationships, and hopefully you will gain some new insights. Our very esteemed panelists today are, let me introduce them one by one. Dr. Thuy Nguyen, president of Foothill College, and Dr. Daryl Foster, president of Las Positas College, and Dr. Diana Rodriguez, chancellor, San Bernardino Community College District, and our very own Pam Walker, my partner in good, the former Vice Chancellor of California Community College System, and our LIFT mentor coordinators. And also we have the pleasure of having 2 additional panelists to join us that you didn't see on the flyer. And they are invited by their mentors, Jackie Escajeda, Dean of Career Education and Mission College, and Luis Miranda, Counselor of LA Valley College. So welcome all of you. our time is short. So I was trying to keep the introduction brief so we have more time to hear from you. Let me see, how do I start? Let me start with maybe our mentees, Louise and Jackie. You know, there are lots of advice that we always hear. I don't know about you in our audience today. Oh, you know, it's the mentors are important, right? Mentor-mentee relationships are important. I know when I was much younger, I heard that, but I was like, do I have a mentor? I don't know. I'm a little clueless about how to even go find a mentor. So I like to have Louis and Jackie just share a little bit. What's the secret, right? Let's unveil this. There is no secret, really. What is your way of having a mentor? You know, how did you find your mentor? And why is everybody saying it's important? So I'll ask you to respond to that first. Then I'll ask our presidents, like, how do I start finding one that's right for me? That won't right for me. Just how do I start finding one if I don't have one, and have that person accept me as a mentor? Let me start with our mentees here, Louis and Jackie. Louis, how about we start with you?
Yeah. So I first got introduced to my mentor in graduate school at Cal State Long Beach in the SDHE program. I was in the second year, and Dr. Foster was the professor in that class. And you know, I've heard things about him before the actual class, but I wanted to choose a mentor that I could relate to. So I wanted to make sure that I even said, you know what, somebody that even kind of looks like me, that was an athlete in college. So I immediately, you know, gravitated towards him because the way he presented, his upbringing, and even being a person of color was very, very important, as we know right now with equity. I said, you know, I want to kind of follow in his footsteps. And if not, then I at least want to make sure I get any advice that I can from him. So from that second year, I believe that was in 2014, I developed a relationship with Dr. Foster for over 7 years that I'm eternally grateful. I'm in this position because of him. I check in periodically. I want to say maybe like once a month, we send a text or a quick little 5-10 minute phone call. And I usually like to ask questions, because when you first start in this field, it's okay to have questions. You know, we're lifelong learners and we're not going to know everything. And then sometimes we might be a little skeptical to even ask certain questions because we don't want to start off at the wrong foot. So then that's when mentors come into play, because it's kind of like you kind of sit down on the bench. If you want to think about a sports methodology, you sit on the bench and then you talk to your coach. And he's kind of motivating you. He's giving you tips on what you want to do before you go back on the playing field. And that's exactly kind of what Dr. Foster did to me. And I really liked his advice, because every time I had scenarios or any advice, he understood that. And he knew, he gave me ideas on what to do to proceed forward.
So you heard about him, then you heard his story in person, then you sought him out.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I think it made it easy because he was my professor at the time. So I was checking in with him like every other Saturday, I think like twice a month.
Okay, so someone actually right there in your circles, whether it's a professor at that time or a practitioner. Okay, thank you. Jackie, I don't know if I should ask you, how did you find Dr. Walker, or maybe she found you, knowing Pam?
I found her.
but I think it also happened organically. And I think Pam just has this amazing leadership, and she really is a true servant leader. And if you want it, she's there for you, for everybody. It's just some people don't want it, and I wanted it. And I believed in her. I trusted her. She's authentic. The honest feedback of what I was doing was important, because that's where you learn. You got to be very open to that constructive criticism. But she also would champion me when I had a great idea, and she believed in me, and the trust goes both ways. She also trusted me with things. I mean, we did the bachelor's degree together. We did the streamlining of curriculum together. And I think the strength for me was her empowering me and believing in me and telling me my instincts are right and this is the right way to go. And so that validation, learning from her, asking questions, and just, really being honest and authentic yourself. And I think that just opens up your world of learning. And I agree with Luis, it is lifelong. And it's just, you got to sometimes get out of your own way to be open to learn.
Okay, and it sounds like some of the things that you mentioned about Pam was values that you hold, and you saw that manifested in Pam. And you said that's a good alignment for me. And I know your relationship. So this goes back to several jobs ago that you've had now. And when you started, you were a classified professional. And here you are today as an educational administrator. So
Yes.
she saw the dean in you already way, 3 jobs ago.
And she had to convince me I didn't want to be a dean. She called me in her office and it was an interesting conversation. She said, I asked the internal and external people who should be the dean, and they all say you, but you're the only one who doesn't see it.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to the president. I don't know in what order you like to jump in. What would you like to add about this finding a mentor business? Are there some secret pathways that we should know about from your own experiences? Because I know each of you have multiple mentors in your career pathways.
I'll jump in if the others don't mind.
Absolutely.
So I think one of the things that's important and that you have to ask yourself as you're seeking a mentor is, are you coachable? Right. And I think you have to be really honest with your response on that. Because as you're seeking mentors and you go and you talk with someone and you're asking their advice or what would they do, or, what should you do? And they spend time with that and they give you their honest feedback. And your immediate response is, no, I don't want to do that because, or no, I don't think that's the right thing because, sometimes that's okay. Right. But I think you have to be really open to what folks are telling you. And sometimes it's difficult to hear, as one of the folks said, that everyone around her was saying you should be the dean, right, except for you, right? And so you have to be honest and ask yourself, well, do I want to be that dean? Do I want to take the advice and throw my hat in the ring and be that dean? I often get asked the question like, how did you get where you are? Right. And my response is really simple. It's first you do the work, right? And then also you trust the people around you. I think with every job that I've had, someone has said, Diana, you should apply for that. Or Diana, I think you might be good. You should apply for that. Right. And my mentors would say, girl, how come you haven't applied for that? You need to get your name in the hat and go for it. So I think you have to be willing to trust people, right? And be coachable. There is.
Okay, thank you. Let me turn to our dear Daryl. President Foster.
Yeah.
How did you in your pathway find the mentors?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I feel so fortunate because not only do I have one of my wonderful mentees here on this panel today, I also have one of my outstanding mentors, President Nguyen, on the panel as well. So, as both Jackie and Louis mentioned, it is a lifelong process, right? And so I've, even in my role, lean on my mentors heavily as well. And, I think because of the great mentorship I've received, it makes it easy to give back, right, and mentor others. And I know we are a helping profession, and so I also take that as a personal responsibility to make sure that I'm mentoring others along the way because of the help that I've received from my mentors. But I want to reiterate what was said earlier about how important it is to find a mentor that's right for you, and really starting with identifying someone that you admire and respect. And that's how I found my mentors, is really looking, for someone not only in a position that I might aspire to have someday, but also really connecting with someone who has the same values and shares the same characteristics that align with my own. And that really has been kind of the foundation in terms of what I've used as a baseline to help identify folks that I want, on my team. And that's how I see my mentors, is really kind of my own personal advisory board to help me navigate, my career and not only, in terms of career aspiration, but day-to-day challenges, right? It's always nice to have somebody else that you can tap into, for that support. And, as a new president and moving to the Bay Area, President Nguyen has been, supportive for me in that role. And so I've been fortunate to be able to have her to lean on as I've transitioned into my new role here in the Bay. But really finding someone that aligns with your own values, I think, is an important aspect of it as well.
And now I heard that repeatedly. Now, did you approach Louis? Did you approach Dr. Nguyen to be your mentor?
Yeah, actually, our paths have, it's such a small field, as we know, has had our paths crossed many years ago, prior to us being in these respective positions. But, fortunately in California, there are a lot of formal mentoring programs, and we actually were fortunate enough to get connected formally through a mentoring program, and that's how we established this formal relationship.
Okay, so it was matchmaking.
Yeah, sure
Okay.
was.
That's what we do in LIP too. So we match you. When people don't know how to find one, we identify, some similarities that we think might work and match you. So that's very interesting. So it's important to have those formalized mentoring programs everywhere. Okay, great. And I did not know that President Nguyen is your mentor. This is great. Well, how about our dear President Nguyen?
Oh, first of all, Dr. Foster is being too kind. I'm not surprised, Louise, you are his mentee because he has such influence up and down the state of California. So I'm honored to be technically called his mentor. And really, as we engage in the work and life and navigate these spaces, and especially as we think about the vision for success, I feel so grateful to have so many colleagues who are friends and who are mentoring, whether it be formal or informal, a little advice here and there, or just a person for an ear to hear what's going on. We are very fortunate in the California community college system to have considering how big our system is, considering how big the state is, to still have such a tight-knit family that supports each other and lift each other. I started my career at the community college actually as an attorney, legal counsel for the Peralta colleges, and some folks may know me in that role. And at that time, I was also legal counsel to the chancellor of the Peralta colleges, Elihu Harris. And it was actually Elihu, and I consider him my all-time mentor, who encouraged me to go outside of my comfort zone. So what Jackie was saying, it just so resonates with me. And he told me, Tweet, you need to be a college president. And I initially actually said no, but his tapping, so to speak, right, planted a seed. And it was actually then 2 years later that I met Dr. Judy Miner. And it was at the ACE Women's Leadership event. And I was there actually to do a training. I was part of a speaker, but I stayed and I listened to her. And I've never done this in my life. I went up to her and I said, will you be my mentor? And it was because she was showing up so authentically. And I said, if I really am going to consider being a college president, I would love to be someone like her. The second time that I had ever done that, and I've never done this until the second time, and that was when I asked someone to be my mentor, and it is our amazing hostess today, Dr. Dingjo Curry. As an untraditional candidate to be college president, I appreciated so much Dr. Curry spending quality time with me, reviewing my application, prepping me for the interviews. And even before I started at Foothill, she sat down and gave me all the resources and advice to get me off to a good start as president. There's a Vietnamese saying that comes from the Tao Te Ching Lao Tzu, which is vạn sự khởi đầu nan, which means 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. And thanks to Dr. Curry, she helped me get on a strong footing when I took that first step as a college president.
Oh, goodness. Thank you for mentioning that. And I would tell others when we talk about Mentee, what you have done to really be successful yourself. Okay, well, I'm going to turn to my partner in good, Dr. Walker. I know you have always so much to say. Now, you work in the program of matching mentor mentees, and I know that some of our participants today may think, oh, these are wonderful presidents, you know, they know what to do, they know how to go up and find someone, and they're in these programs, leadership programs that I don't get sent to, finding mentors formally, informally. So what do you have to say for those maybe are feeling that way, that I'm still a distant away from what I'm hearing right now? How does that relate to me? I don't even know how to get started, and I don't know how to go find myself a mentor. Can you talk about it from your experiences and working in that space, mentor-mentee matchmaking, and also following them, you know, how do we help one to find?
Thank you, Dr. Curry. So because this is such a august group of people, I must say a couple of things about each of them, because I know Diana Rodriguez in the last few weeks has been mentoring someone that I believe I'm mentoring. Sometimes you do it from afar, sometimes you do it in secret, sometimes you do it by little taps. And what she has done recently has changed the course for someone, and I think changed the course for the school, that this person is going to be a first dean. And Diana, I can't thank you enough for that work. Daryl Foster, the work that he did early with Amend taught me so much. I mean, I started sending people because of his work. So I felt like he was mentoring me with all this great African American excellence and opportunities that we had there. And Thuy Nguyen never got me in trouble when we worked together at the state chancellor's office, because her legal mind was significant. And so we made a lot of changes because I trusted her enough to listen to her. And you know, when we get to certain ages, we don't trust anyone. So Louisa, and I appreciate that you're having that experience also with Dr. Foster. And of course, Jackie Escajeda is someone that I just completely believe in. Not only did she save us from many heartbreaks when we were doing some statewide work because she understood it, she just didn't believe she understood it as well as she did. So having someone come in and kind of talk that through. This morning, I listened to Dr. Curry on a different panel talk about life transformation and how it's personal. Each of us have a life story. We tell it often. It's important to tell because we all just didn't start in these positions. I like to say I was actually voted most likely not to succeed in a high school class of 36. And now they have to call me Dr. Walker when I come back to those little communities, right? So we each have our experiences. What I want to talk just for a second about is how we take classified opportunities, our classified staff, and what we see that they can do, but they haven't quite made it to that next step. They haven't moved into management. They don't even think they can. So let me tell you about one of our lifters. She said, I really know financial aid. I'm really good at it. I've been in this business a long time. But I don't think anybody will ever consider me as the supervisor of the financial aid area, because they don't see me in that way. I said, well, let's work on how they will see you differently. What do you know? How have you helped? Who have you told? what are the things, how have you chosen to share this information? It's not about bragging, it's about supporting and helping others. And so I started to work with her and watched her as we provided guidance. Dr. Curry and I provided guidance, motivation on how you might be able to be a little better and help your colleagues differently. Also emotional support. I can't interview, I can't do it. They all know me. I said, well, Dr. Foster, you just said we're a small organization. We all know everybody. And so they will know you. So how do we provide that emotional support? And how do we do that role modeling, telling our own story? Again, this morning, Dr. Curry told her own story, a very important story about a woman that we should all speak of, and that's Carolyn Desjardins, who did this work on women's leadership 40 years ago. And so each of us have these experiences that we need to tell other people about because someone doesn't believe that we could have been at their same place. So helping them with role modeling, and then helping them set goals, and then develop contacts. When I was working with this one student, I said, let us have you talk to 3 other people who have been in your place. And so I introduced her to some other folks, and she was willing to ask those questions, which then started to provide her with some answers that said, maybe I could do that too. So I would like to tell you that she went through the interview, she got the job, she is the supervisor. And I said to her, the thing that's going to be most important is that you reach back to the next person and bring them along. So I think that our work in Lift and the work that we do with our classified staff is so significant because we all started someplace. And so we want to make sure that they know they can reach the very highest level if they want to, and that it is our responsibility to help them every step of the way. Lift does that by providing opportunities for first generation leaders, and that is so exciting. And so, Dr. Curry, the work we do with our classified staff, and it's not that we are not mentoring everybody and anybody who wants to call, because we've had enough experiences together, along with a couple of our other Lift people. I think we have about 150 years of leadership in our souls, and so and maybe on our feet as well. But I think that the most important part is that we take every experience and we do everything we can and being as authentic as we can to help every individual, whether it's the district chancellor, or whether it's the person who cleans the restrooms who wants to move to the next step in their career. And that's just as exciting to me when we see people on both ends of our organization get to step up a little bit more. So the work of Lift is important. You know, you're all going to be talked into helping us at some point in your careers. Some of you already have. But I learn from each of you. So if I can continue to learn, then I can continue to grow and I can continue to help and mentor. So thank you for doing the work you do.
No, thank you for doing the work you do. We're working, and I know even the last week when you were fly fishing, they're still calling you, right? So thank you for the work you do.
Yeah, I said, just a second, let me pull that fish up and then I'll talk to you.
I want to move into the mentee mode a little bit, because if you heard enough from the panel so far that you are a mentor, but you're also a mentee, right? I was saying that earlier in the last webinar, the last hour, that what I tell our lifter is one hand is holding on to your mentor, the other has to be holding on someone else and bring them up with you as well. So this is very important. And I know that our Chancellor Rodriguez started us thinking about that. Like, are we ready to be a mentee? And now I'll turn to our panelists. You have lots of mentees in your days, and people come up to you and asking you, and now that you achieved the top level, many will come up to you probably after you speak, or even in presentations or at work, wanting you to mentor them. So think about yourself as mentees for a moment, and also all the mentees you have had. Now, can you share some of the best practice behaviors of excellent mentees? because if you're like me, you say, my goodness, that's a model mentee behavior. No wonder you just go up and up and up. Now, what's a good, great, excellent mentee look like, and why do they make such a joy for you to be their mentors, and such a pride for you to be their mentors? Let me turn to the presidents first, and I'll start with our Chancellor Rodriguez, since you talked about that in your first remark about asking yourself, are we ready?
Yeah, thank you for that. And you know, that's one of the things that I look for when I'm talking with somebody who's ready to make a career move or thinking about a career move. Are they ready, and are they open to suggestions, or are they just looking to me to be a sounding board, right? And either way is okay, right? I'm happy to be just the sounding board as well, because sometimes that's really helpful for folks. But some of the things that I look for in the folks that I talk with is, A, are they ready? Are they willing to do the work that's needed? Dr. Walker talked about, well, let's talk about how people see you. Let's talk about the information that you're disseminating, right? Are you willing to put in the work to have people see you differently? I do a conversation with some of my mentees about branding, like what's your brand? How do you want people to see you? How do you want to be known? So let's talk about that, right? And let's ask some people, safe people, that, Diana says that she's X, Y, and Z. Is that what you see in her? Right? And get some feedback, right? And if there's a disconnect in that, then let's work on that, right? Or maybe they see you in a more elevated light than you see yourself, right? So how do we get you to rise up so that you see and believe in yourself, that you are worthy of what you want to be, and that you have the skill sets to do it? How do we build the confidence, right? And all of that takes work, and it takes time, and it takes patience, right? And it takes commitment. So those are the things that I look for. Sometimes, some of those things move along quicker than others, and that's okay too. Right? I also look for folks who are, if they say they want to be a director or a dean and move up, I kind of start with, well, why that position? Why that? Right? And to see if this is really what they want to do in terms of the work, or is it the title that they want, or is it the pay grade that they're looking for, right? So that we can get at the root of what it is that they really want. So when they arrive, right, they are excited about being there and not disappointed. Sometimes I was working with one young lady, and she thought she just really wanted to be a vice president of student services. And when we got to talking about her goals and her trajectory and what she wanted to do, right, and what made her excited and light up, right, it wasn't student services work, which broke my heart because I come up through student services, right? But what she really wanted to do and what made her excited and alive was administrative services work, right? The business side, working with contracts, negotiations, all of these things. I mean, and when we're talking with her, you just see her beam when she talks about it. So we did a little bit of a shift in her plans, and I connected her with somebody who does the work, the actual work, and they allowed her to come in and shadow, right? And not just for one day, right? That she got the opportunity to shadow for 3 full days, and that's a lot, right? And I appreciate that administrator for giving up that much time to a person, to help them discover what they want. So, those are the things that I look for in a mentee, right? And their authenticity, and to be honest and open with what they want.
And committed and patient. I heard some of those pearls. How about President Wynn? With your mentees, what kind of mentees are the best to mentor?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question because it also does make me also reflect in what I hope good mentees are also what I hope that I, as a mentee myself, am good to my mentor. And that is checking in, right? Really connecting and be a little bit unapologetic about asking for help, right? And not be afraid to ask for help. I think one thing that I've discovered in our system, and this is why I love our California community college system, is people help each other. And so, just really reaching out and say, I really would love for you to be my mentor, or I have a question for you, that people actually generally are very open to spend time and support each other. So not be afraid of taxing other people's time and therefore really checking in. In terms of me, I remember one time when I started as president, being an untraditional person candidate, and I didn't go through the traditional route of being a college president. I had a moment, like my first few months, where I didn't know what a college president is supposed to look like. And seriously, I even had a moment where I was like, what do I dress like? Like, do I still dress like a lawyer or not? Or, what have you? But I thought of my mentor, and these are times like that you have to think of your mentor and call. So I called Elihu Harris, and of course he said, "Look in the mirror, Twee. What does a college president look like? Look in the mirror." And that was it. It got me out of my overthinking, and that was all I needed. But to check in, to think of your mentor in times like that.
Great, and you do that. You do that. So yeah, I see the phone. Zoe, see, it's okay to call, because I said, not right now. I'm right in the middle of something, but I know she needs something, and I'll call you later. So you absolutely practice what you preach.
And you
President
always
Foster,
make time, and you always make time. Thank you.
and everybody would, really. It's just not me. So your wise counsel is never be afraid to ask. Yeah. President Foster.
Yeah, appreciate that. For me, as I think about my mentees and knowing, my interactions with Luis over the years, he really is a model mentee. So let me just tell you what makes him a model mentee. He's very clear about what he wants and what he needs from me, and that's really helpful. He's thoughtful about my time. He's the one that initiates the meetings with me, and when we meet, he's very specific about the topics and the asks that he comes to our meetings prepared. And so that's helpful, when mentees do that, because it often allows me to know in advance what type of support, he is seeking, whether it be job exploration, preparing for a job, or simply asking for a letter of recommendation. And oftentimes it's about challenges on the job and navigating issues that he or my other mentees might be experiencing as a professional. Luis also takes initiative for maintaining our relationship, which he mentioned earlier. And the great thing about it, it's not only always focused on professional experiences. Sometimes it's focused on personal experiences, right? Everything's on the table, and we have constant conversations about what does it mean to be a male student of color, a male of color in this work, and how do we show up, and what are some challenges that we experience that we both relate to, and so that also informs our relationship and our conversation, and really frames our connection in many ways as well, that shared experience. Many of my mentees have formally asked me to serve as their mentor, and when that relationship is defined, we discuss expectations, and I think that's an important piece, is from the onset, is really having that conversation with your mentee or your mentor about, what do you expect from me? As Dr. Rodriguez said, it's important to know what it is, where can I be of support to you? And having those conversations at the very beginning to establish those expectations are really helpful as well. And then the last thing, and again, I want to reiterate what Dr. Rodriguez mentioned earlier, because it's nuggets of wisdom is that Luis is willing to be mentored, right? And I think that that's an important piece, is that, you know, having a mentee who is receptive to accepting feedback, accepting advice, being willing to listen and take that advice, it really makes a difference. And it's important to me as a mentor, if I'm investing in our relationship and you're asking for my support and my advice, I want to also work with somebody who's willing to be mentored in that way as well.
Thank you. And I'll turn to Louis and Jackie. You have been talked about as a model mentee, and you also mentor others. So share your experiences about what makes a good mentee.
Well, I agree with President Foster. As a leader, it is our responsibility to mentor our staff and to bring out the best in them. And so in my previous job, I would look around and I would see people who had a lot of potential, but for some reason that they didn't see it themselves. And maybe because I was that person. And so there was this one person, she's very articulate. She understood curriculum way more than she thought she did, but she was very nervous about presenting. So I would coach her. We would like practice, and then I would be on the panel with her. And last minute, sometimes she said, I don't think I can do this part, but I want to do this part. And so you got to really, as a mentor, you really need to listen to them on what they're comfortable with and not try to push them too hard, because then they may not come back to you. So I would just nudge her gently. And before I knew it, she didn't need me, and she was leading her own presentations, doing her PowerPoints. And it felt great when other people would come up to me at the Curriculum Institute and say, oh my goodness, so-and-so just did an amazing job. And that feels great to know that you really helped somebody in that way. And then President Nguyen makes a good point that sometimes it's informal. Sometimes it's your friends that need help with their job or situation, and you listen. And I think that's another important part as being a mentor. You really need to listen and honor, what their space and what their needs are. And you just kind of go with it. And it's important to be honest and authentic, and to really want the best for your mentee.
Great. Louis?
Yeah, so I first want to start off by saying, Dr. Foster, you're so kind, so I appreciate the words you used. And I now want to also talk about Dr. Foster a little bit, how one of the first things that he told me when I was in grad school was like, I told him, thank you for being a mentor. And then he mentioned, you know what, eventually you're going to be a mentor too. So I hope that when you have a mentee, you kind of use me as a role model. So, and I have, and now that I am a full-time counselor here at LA Valley College, I noticed that I have mentees as well too. I have a Puente mentee, and I also have a mentee that's in graduate school. And I try to role model exactly what Dr. Foster did. I want to make sure that they initiate contact. I want to make sure that I'm there for them as well too, even if it's letters of recommendation or just like interview tips, right? So I want to go back to exactly what Dr. Foster said. I think it's very important how he said about the values. I think it's also very important too that we establish those expectations from the beginning, because when I had mentees as well too, I want to make sure what their interests are, what their aspirations are going to be in higher ed, just like the chancellor mentioned before. I think that's very important, because sometimes your mentee may not want to be a counselor, or maybe along the way they find out they want to take a different trajectory in their role. So I think it's very important that we establish expectations from the beginning, and then also pay it forward. That's one of the reasons why I'm a counselor now. I think it's very, very important that we pay it forward, and we take a step back and remember that we were once those students. We were those graduate students. And we're very thankful for the role models that we have now, and then to pay it forward in the future for any mentees that want to approach us.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to turn to you, Dr. Walker, in just a minute. Our time is wrapping up. Maybe one or two things that you observe from working with so many mentor-mentee relationship on mentees, spotlighting what couple of things that good mentees do.
Thanks, Dr. Curry. And also in our chat, we've been asked a question I think is really important about some of the do's and don'ts, or one or two things that didn't go right. But I would tell you that in my mind, what I hope that I have been as good a mentee as I have tried to be a mentor in learning from others. And that's throughout my career, not even knowing what mentor and mentees were when I first started, but who could I learn from? What could I do better? How could I figure this out? And I'll tell you a funny story. I used to think of Dr. Bryce Harris, who was once the state chancellor and before that the chancellor of the Los Rios district. And I used to watch him, and he was always dressed so professionally. And I thought, you know, I will never be able to dress in that same way. So Twee, I was thinking of that as well when you were talking. And so I asked him, how do you put this together every day? And he gave me this really good answer. And I thought, oh, I'm going to follow this exactly. And so I went out and did the same thing he did. Of course, I didn't wear a tie and I didn't wear a white shirt, but I did exactly what he did so I could remember what I needed to do each day. The mentee, I think, in our roles as mentors to our mentees is to try every day to not get disappointed ourselves as mentors if they aren't able to be successful with some of the things that we're offering them. I think that's one of the things that I don't get personally I get excited and I appreciate and I want for their success, but at the end of the day, it's their journey, not mine. And so I try to sit on the side and cheer and coach and do all the things I need to do, but I try personally not to get totally involved because then it hurts my heart. So I do those kinds of things in a way that helps me a little bit more. Now, it doesn't mean Jackie Escajeda would not say to you that I was not personally involved in her entire direction toward mission and the way she did things and calling back, but it's also her journey. So I will say to you, from a mentor-mentee relationship, I want to try to do everything I can to open our opportunities and be helpful. And I do not want to get so personally involved that it hurts my journey, so that I'm really trying to stay on the sideline and cheer from the stands and help from that end. But Dr. Curry, I would say that if we don't offer a couple of, oh my gosh, what went wrong? So I will let you do that one because you're really good at it.
Okay, I'm watching the clock here to make sure that we wind down and be respectful of your time. In the final 10 minutes or so, we have our title of the webinar is Secrets Revealed. So I know sometimes even hearing this group talking, you might think, oh my goodness, this seems like a cyclical thing and you all know each other. And I know others have talked to me before at Institute that the way that you are with each other, you know how in the LIFT faculty team, we have 20 or 30 and we're coming and going and they see us relating to each other like old friends. This seems like a secret society or something. Is it that way when you are doing mentor-mentees? And how do I get into that? Are there some secrets in there that we don't know about? So let's see what there is really any secret to this and what makes it really secret to have those kind of rewarding, stress-free, and very sustaining, healthy mentor-mentee relationships. And I ask you to save your secret to the last. So here's one thing that you can reveal to our participants today. What might be some things that you want them to be sure to have? I'll start with one. I tell you just from what I was hearing earlier. From many of the mentees, people who want me to mentor them and have come up to me and said, could I have your business card? Could I have your card? Because I really want to talk to you. I need you to mentor me. I said, of course. I never say no. So of course. But of the 100 business cards that give out, who follow up? So the secret for me is those who actually get the reward with the mentor relationship is those who actually being in the active mode rather than the passive mode. I may not remember you to call you, but you remembered my business card to call me. I'm delighted when I get that call. So actively and follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So that's my secret for you. How about, I will circle back to our Chancellor Rodriguez.
There we go. Before I answer that, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Dr. Walker, who has maybe in a, I don't know, a informal or informal capacity has been my mentor. When I became president of San Bernardino Valley College, she will tell you that I had a revolving door of VPIs and just, we couldn't get traction. And we were talking and it came up and she, in her kind of way, said, you know, if I were you, I would consider da, 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 da. Right. And so, and then we just kept talking casually. And then that night I was thinking, oh, she just told me what to do. Perfect. And went for it. And since then, it's just been nothing but success in that area. So thank you, Dr. Walker. I appreciate that. So the secret to a stress-free relationship, I think, is really kind of no secret. I think it is let the person know that you are authentic and that you really do value their opinions or their thoughts and so on. Let the person know that you care. And I think that goes both ways, whether you're the mentee or the mentor, right? One of the things that I do to see if this is going to be a real relationship, right, is that I give my business cards away like, you know, candy at Halloween, right? And I think everyone in the Inland Empire has my cell phone number, and I'm okay with that. I give it out freely. But the ones that text me or say that, you know, can you be my mentor? I respond back and I'll ask them, I said, I'm happy to. What specifically can I help you with? You know, and if they respond back via email or in the text with something that I can tell that, okay, this is something they really want to dive into, I respect that because that tells me that they respect my time, right? And so that's something that that speaks well to me. If it's just, well, I just really want to get to know you, that's okay too, but that's a different type of relationship, right? So those are the things that I look for.
Great. President Nguyen.
The secret to mentoring, I would say, is probably the secret to life, and that is gratitude is the attitude. And to really just constantly express your gratitude to your mentors. I do it often one-on-one with them. I let them know which part of their mentorship was helpful to me, to give them feedback as to what was, you know, good and how it made an impact as an expression of my gratitude. But also when I speak with other people on panels like this one, I also sing their praises. And I look forward to the recording to send to Elihu Harris and Judy Miner, for instance, to let's say, hey, you know, thank you. I made a point to note that for you. So gratitude is the attitude.
And you absolutely do that. I get that from you all the time. I took your advice. This is what I did, and this is the result. And then you absolutely practice what you preach. And lastly, President Foster.
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, as I think about it, and it's been said throughout our conversation today, is that it is a relationship, right? So if you think about what makes for an effective relationship, any relationship that you've been a part of, right? You think about the qualities that makes for an effective relationship, you know, commitment, you know, effective communication, right? All of those things play a role in that. And the secret for me is really focusing on the aspect of the relationship that is the foundation is about trust and honesty. I think on the part of both the mentor and the mentee. And with the various mentees I have, there's various levels of that relationship. And the ones that are the most rich and the most meaningful is when there's vulnerability on the part of the mentee, who is able to admit their challenges or their mistakes, or admit what they don't know, because then that provides for those learning opportunities, and it really helps foster that professional growth and development. And those are the conversations that Luis and I have, is that there's that honesty of really getting down to, gosh, I'm not quite sure how to go about this, right? And that's what the mentoring relationship for me is really about, because you can't have those conversations necessarily with your supervisor or with folks on your campus to say, I don't know if I really know how to do this, right? But that's the value of these mentoring relationships, especially when you're connecting with folks outside of your college or your district. But really getting down to that piece of being vulnerable really helps further those relationships for me.
My goodness, thank you so much. I want to pause here in respect of the time and thank all of your participation and the advice and the pearls of wisdom that you have shared with us today. And I know there's a lot more to even what you have shared so far. And if you're still wondering, how can I go get myself a good mentor? And so be in the group. So my shameless plug is join us at Lift. We will help you match one, and we'll also coach you how to best utilize a mentor, and as well as mentoring others. Okay, so thank you for your participating in today's Lift webinar, again sponsored by the California Community College Chancellor's Office. And don't miss our next webinar scheduled for October 29th at the same time. And that topic will be walking the talk of equity. And what does that have to do with you individually? Yes, you. So we welcome you to join us again. We hope today's webinar has inspired you about your own career, and that you have learned insights about mentor-mentee relationship today that will help you guide your way as a mentee, as well as help others when you are a mentor yourself. Thank you. And I want to give a big shout out to the panelists again, especially Luis and Jackie for joining us, and our president's panel, and my partner as always, Dr. Walker, and my dear Lift team who is working tirelessly in the background to help us having a successful webinar, and those who are in the Chancellor's office who had guided and support this effort. Your feedback is very helpful to us. We do study your feedback. So there is a link. I know that Myra is sending it out to you, and please take time, just a few minutes, to fill out the survey and let us know. And we have a link for you, and please do it as soon as you can. We thank you again for your participation, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really, I know you're all busy, and I hope I can also count on you. I know Pam is there, and she's the one who's always going to nudge you. That our Lift is coming up in November 15 through 18, and we hope you, President, really look for those diamonds in the rough that they may not recognize themselves as future leaders, but I know you can see through them to really welcome them to the Lift family. You know we're going to take good care of them. So, and the best of what we have found is when you send a team, maybe 4 or 5. And this year, I was telling Daryl that we have worked with the Chancellor's office, pressed the cost way down to $250 for the week-long program. Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's a very, very amazing. So for $1,000, you can send a team of 4. We hope all of you would send a team, because they can go back and have people they could, continue to work with, because we do give them projects, and that would be a wonderful thing. And I also welcome you to do our taste of mentoring, because we actually have them experience the mentor right doing our Lift Institute. So I hope I can count on all of you to lift everyone on your campus. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a great weekend ahead.